Hello, Hans-Christian. Hello, Ida. Hello, Alexis. You have a different background. I already realized in the talking with Tanya.
Yes, I moved a little bit around. I moved, so the window is now that way because I normally am in front of the window, and now I've moved sideways a little bit. So that's just for a change, because I kind of, it's so, habitual, and it's so easy to always kind of set it up in the same way. But I realized as we change, also like the surroundings have to change, or I have to do a bit something different, not just changing flowers. So it felt good to change a little bit. So welcome each one to Jewels of Wisdom. I have pressed the recording button, so we're good to go. And what times, isn't it like incredible? I don't know if I can even use the word incredible times, but we're all going so deep. For myself, I sleep a lot and still look like I could sleep for 3 years straight. I just can't sleep enough, and then sometimes like I'm awake the whole night, and it's just all very, very much out of the order, and like things are coming up so deeply, for people. So many things are stirring up, and like you can't really hide oneself from oneself. That's what I'm finding. And then at the same time, we can really feel that Christ consciousness. Is that something similar that you're experiencing right now, each one of you, or what has been happening with you?
Yes, very, very much. I don't know if everybody is connected to Sandy Egoist, to his newsletters. Did you read them? The recent newsletter from Hubert? And
Saint Egoist, Hubert. Yes.
Yeah. When he talked about the hertz frequencies and so on.
Yeah.
And he was also talking not be connected with his soul. And I experienced the same. I wasn't connected with my soul at all for some days. I thought, what's going on? And also this sleeping from once, we already spoke about the last times, from 1 second to the other, I was awake, just awake. And then I felt so often when I didn't feel so good, I felt Yeshua coming in. Just Yeshua embracing me, go on, keep on going. And there was such a love. It's incredible. And last night I felt like my material body was dissolving, and I can just only like floating, just like this. And that's really I don't know another word for it, but it's incredible. It's really incredible. Incredible and real at the same time. Yeah. Did you realize it, Hans-Christian?
No, go ahead, Doris, please.
No, I asked you, did you realize it too, this Christ consciousness? And Ida?
I'm doing Jim Self's classes, and we did in a meditation brought the Christ consciousness into the heart, and he said you can expect that it will just come through you into the world. It's not always conscious to me, but if I focus is the wrong word, but put my attention in a light way, not a strong attention. It's just a shift in these areas. I can feel that Christ consciousness, that it's there. And I heard Michael saying it's 90% anchored already on this planet at the moment as we speak. So there's not much, only 10% left, and it's 100% anchored, and that's very good news, you know. And or bad for some people, I don't know. It can be intense, I think. Yeah, but I sense all sort of energies, and sometimes sometimes there may not be Christ consciousness. I don't know, but yes, but certainly I believe our presence, or my presence, is actually radiating it, sometimes conscious, me being conscious of it, and sometimes not. But I think it still kind of radiates still in a way.
Yes, I think I'm feeling much more light. There is coming light inside of me, and sometimes I tend to go like this kind of pathways that are like, I'm in my mind, I'm worrying, I'm how I transform myself, what should I do with myself, and stuff like that is like pathways of that kind of experience. But then I remember to just come into my light, and I feel there is like my heart is just opening and opening and opening, and it's like much more easier way to just allow this kind of vulnerability and just let go what I don't anymore need. It's new for me, because I have the tend to like thinking that I need to figure this out, how I transform myself, and just keep on figuring out, and what. But it's a new experience to me. Like, no, I don't need to figure anything out. I just come into this light, and I feel how I just let go. I don't even need to know what I let go. I just let go all this.
Yeah,
I had a conference call. I had a conference call with the Robert Theis group, and Michael was talking about getting the thoughts that are not yours out of your head. And I had the vision of this wonderful picture of Dumbledore putting a wand to his head and putting this into a glass. And I thought, wow, this is exactly what I need.
Are we lucky that we have all these sci-fi and all these kind of fantasy movies? Because honestly, I use this kind of imagery so much. It's so handy, you know. There is nothing that we can't use. And this is a perfect example, Dumbledore pulling out these thoughts, you know, like, because all of these things are here to serve us, you know, and our imagination is not limited by anything except for what we give it the limitation. So what a wonderful imagery.
Yeah, I had some kind of, should I say, strange experience over the last weekend. And first, I must say, at the beginning of the year, I said to Adams, or to myself, well, I don't have these interactions with 3D people. I'm here, I'm living on my little island and so on. But then it started. It started in March, but visiting my daughters, I think I spoke about it. And then with my neighbors here in the house. And it's going to be quiet because whenever they were really making noises, I did play the music from Jan Burgers or from Heaven's Cross. I put on really the highest speed I could, and they had to hear this music. So no, it's going to be calm again. But then I was invited from a very, very old friend of mine. I know her since my 15th year of life. She had a birthday and she was at the lake normally she's living in Paris, and she invited me to come to the Lake of Constance to celebrate her birthday with another friend. And then I realized it was great. There was a very beautiful relationship in between us. But then I realized how stuck they are in their mind. I became aware how 3D people do think, how they do react. I try them to inform them what is going on to happen, just with the energy raising and things like this. And well, how can you know? How can you prove it? I believe science, things like that. So we were together, having walks, going swimming in the lake, having dinners together. But whenever it was possible, I just got away and stayed with myself. And with one ear, I sometimes was listening. They were talking about so stupid things. Well, the mobile phone is that you can't tell them it's a telephone. Another friend said to the one who was living in France, she said, well, but in France it's normal. Even you say, you mention it as a telephone, or you have the other one. Things, stupid things like this, we were discussing. So I became so aware how complicated 3D people are going to make their lives. And I was so grateful not to be connected to this world anymore like this. I had the possibility to just go somewhere else. And yeah, but this was a very important realization for me. Like Adamus was always speaking about how easy life could be for us. And this easiness, I felt there. Even staying there in between of them, inside me, I laughed. I just laughed and thought, okay, go on. We did meet, we have a good time together, but I follow another way. So this was really something I had to know, because I think it was from Atlantis, where everybody was together and is also in the mind, oh, we stick all together. And I felt, well, I am conscious, so everybody else has to be conscious. And here myself gave me a kick in the ass. Now you see, it's really only a very, very small group who has this consciousness and who do live it. Yeah, this was my experience.
I can relate to all of what all three you're saying in a number of different ways. Like, firstly with this, yes, it's so wonderful to actually go with normal people, because like you can all the time be grateful. Like I'm grateful so much, all the time, because I can see the traps and the small world that they're caught in, and the complications, and you can even see the walls that their mind is creating, and this, it's like cult, like it's a cult. Being normal is like a cult, and they're so caught up in that it's almost like a miracle to be able to come out. And like until they come to that place where something happens, life happens to them, and their soul gives them some kind of a nudge, you can't really reasonably reason with them to actually step out of their belief. I found that for me, because like I regularly do job, and actually I find that for me, this not working and doing all these different kind of things is coming together in this beautiful dance, because I used to be quite resentful towards having a job, but now I'm really enjoying, because as I'm relaxed, I let people be as they are, and I find that then they also let me be as I am. And maybe they think I'm weird or whatever, but they completely accept me. And some of them have really we've actually become friends, and we kind of like talk about things that, you know, especially people who are naturally, I don't know, they're kind of like, almost like you can say they're genius, what normal people call them geniuses, but they're very normal and still very scientific, but yet they're open. Something in their head is open. They have that space where, but they still do it in their own scientific way, but they are open, and you can discuss and chat and discover. So those kind of people, you know, for me, I now have in my life, and they're not like, you know, they're not spiritual. We don't speak spiritual things, just kind of not even everyday things, but like just discovering all the things that science is discovering. Like I've kind of done a little bit of research what current science is doing, and certain scientists, they've broken through that 3D, and they're almost talking like our language. So that scientific language and the spiritual language is merging, but there's only very few of those kind of people. But all of a sudden, like I opened myself to it, and there they were. And it's quite exciting to be able to learn their language, and then find people within my circle of people, of everyday people, that also can speak this language, you know. So it's just actually allowing people, not, you know, because it's part of those kind of stories. I don't know how to explain this better. For me, let's say even relationships, let's say with men, you know, I have quite a few good male friends, in a also romantic way, and also, you know, all sorts of way. But what's happened is that I've let go of the story. For example, let's say I meet someone, and all of a sudden that old story, oh, and then we get together, and then we get married, and, you know, and then we get engaged, and then we get married, and then we get a house together, and all of that is so strong as a human being. But I've let it just go, all of that, and then I'm okay with the person just to where they are and where I am and where we meet. And I've realized that I don't need to put that expectation on any one person to be all of those things for me, that I can have all these different kind of relationships, both with men and women, that, you know, like they can satisfy all these different parts of me, of relating with another person. So it's gone into this huge depth of experience with so many different kinds of people, and my circle, you know, like there were times in the last, let's say 15 years, a decade, where my circle has gone smaller. You know how you become, okay, I just have to be with Shambra, or I just have to be with Michael Leiter, you know, and it was perfect time for that. But now it's like, you know, I'm out of that hourglass, and all of a sudden I realized, wow, there's quite a few billion people in the world. But it's not having that expectation that one person has to be everything to me, you know, and the confidant and the friend and the lover and the you know, there are lots of different people that I can interact with, because we are so complex now, you know, like I'm not a single dimensional being anymore. So for me, I'm exploring that a lot, and just enjoying people without asking my brain to add that story. And it's been so surprising, and also, you know, incredibly warm relationships with all sorts of people. Then with the Christ consciousness, like what you were talking about, Hans Christian, you know, like Michael saying that, for me, I've experienced personally, for me, all of these things are very, very personal now. So for me, I've experienced Christ consciousness about, not last year, but the year before. There was about 4 months in that year where I just went into my cave. I didn't go anywhere. And I spent a lot of time just hanging around, or on the sofa, or in a bed during the day, like taking a lot of naps. And I felt this incredible expansion of my heart, like what I thought, you know, that I knew Christ consciousness before, and I did. But it was when it really physically came into my body, and how it felt. It was just this pure love. I don't know, the purest love that I've experienced, and not some kind of strange love, but just love of me, and love within which then my own masculine and feminine were dancing, and just rediscovering themselves out, you know, because before they was in such a war and in such a battle, like my previous, you know, my 20s, my teenage years, 20s, 30s, they were in such a battle, and in that Christ consciousness, they just really came together. And it was just such an incredible feelings of love. I don't know how to explain these well-being feelings that I had. They were just warm and just kind of really felt like radiating out of my heart. And then it kind of went away again, and the normal life happened much more. But now I realize that I can always access that. I just have to go into that and feel that radiance, and it comes up. I can start feeling it as I choose. In that dance of the masculine and feminine, at that time, we really just started. So it's like it keeps developing. Like I keep all of these incredible stories of love, whether it is, it's kind of like I'm experiencing different lifetimes within me. Like, for example, let's say I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm half awake, half asleep, and I might be in a different lifetime where perhaps like there is a strong connection between the son and the mother, or husband and wife, or all these different combinations between male and masculine and feminine. And I'm just feeling how all of those stories are now developing. It's almost like I go into their timeline and I'm experiencing, I'm either a son or a mom or a wife, like I can be either side, but I'm just experiencing these new ways of relating, like movies. I don't know, like real movies of all these different relationships and events and how they're interacting. So for me, this is what it feels like, this Christ consciousness in action, where this male and female have really come together, and not only within me in this lifetime, but all of my other lifetimes, and somehow I'm experiencing it, kind of reaping the benefits of those feelings. For example, let's say if you have a mother and a son and they have this beautiful experience together, when they reconnect or whatever, I can feel all of those nuances of feelings. And that's what I'm finding quite incredible at the moment, how many, like having all these lifetimes be now in the now moment, that I can actually feel all these different feelings without actually having to go through those stories. And at the same time, because I am now feeling those beautiful feelings, then all of my relationships in this lifetime are much better, because I can relate with people in such a different kind of way, whether they are normal, whether they're spiritual, whether they're whatever, it doesn't actually even matter, because it's much more on a feeling way. So that's what's been happening in this way. And then there was another thing I was going to say, what Ida, you said. Okay, it'll come back to me. But there's just been so much of this. And yes, the resonance has been increasing. And going into the depths of things. Like we did, Cassie, I don't know if you know, but Cassie and I, we're doing now like a regular deep dive kind of workshop. And in there we go so deep, and Saint Germain in this last one took us on this journey into cells, into individual cells, where I remember when Cryon talked about this few years ago, that the space in the cells is not an empty space, but it's where the divinity, where God resides. And so we went into that space so deep. And we felt that divinity waking up in there and being alive and being present. It was very enlivening but tiring. I almost fell asleep, and I thought, wow, I'm the one channeling. I can't fall asleep, but not because it was so deep. So I find that all of these kind of journeys now, they are so deep, like we really, like what you were saying, Hans, yes, that 90% is giving us access already to these incredible states of being, if, when you are aware of them. But it's all very fine, and it's all very, like, I'm talking about them now, but if I didn't talk about them, or perhaps write them down or something, they could even escape the being observed, because they're so fine. So I'm finding that not so much even has to happen like in the outer world, in the physical world, even though it's kind of ticking along, but this journey of consciousness at the moment is just it's out of this world, because we are going out of this world into all of those incredible patterns. Like the Schumann resonance has been saying, for me it reminds me like a wonderful grandmother knitting a jumper for winter. That's what it kind of feels like, with knitting patterns. And also another thing was also like in the dreams, of course vivid, but also like every feeling. I've had dreams where it's in a different location, different people than this life, but the feelings that I've experienced in this life are so strong. Like, for example, one dream can just have the presence of this feeling. And what I've been sort of noticing is how, like what is becoming real is, I don't know if you know how Seth always is saying, okay, every feeling, every thought that you have, every emotion that you have has its own dimension, has its own reality. And now I'm kind of realizing the enormity of every feeling and every thought having this reality, because my human self is like, what the fuck? I don't know what to do with this kind of, when you realize the implications of that, and also then how precious every human being and every living being is that has feelings and like, because they have their own reality. So I don't know, I haven't been able to process that yet, because some of these things are so huge for the human. But yeah, so huge things are happening, and as you're probably listening to me, you're realizing, wow, but I'm also, yes, me too, because that's what I say when I listen to you, all of you. I say me too, but I just didn't notice it until now that you're saying it. So
yeah, well, I felt concerning to Christ consciousness, I felt very deeply Kuan Yin the recent weeks. And this was, for myself, it was a kind of a balance of the feminine and masculine. And then after Kuan Yin, Yeshua came in, and it's just like being in a cloud of softness and warmness, and just coming, letting it come out. And what you were talking about, the cells and the spaces in between, but I I got access to Kiak, and we both asked, well, is it okay? And then Adamus came to me and said, it does support you, it's okay. Once you are abundant, you can send some money to the Crimson Circle, and to the friend who offered it to me, he mentioned the same. But Adams came to me and asked me to offer it to you. So this was really a great gift to me. And there in Kiev, Adams spoke the recent weeks about these cells and the space in between. And that's what I have been working all days along with my body, letting the light come in between the spaces. But he also mentioned not only the cells, the spaces in between the mind and the thoughts. He explained it like they are all particles flying around, and these particles are coming now together as one piece, and then staying, he calls it soul domain, being on your own singularity, on your own domain. And I realized this too, that it's just flowing together, and sometimes it's so overwhelming. I couldn't think about it. And this morning, when I read the newsletter from St. Louis, from Hubert, I became so aware of what was happening with this high frequency of Schumann resonance. It was just floating, floating, floating. And but I did dive into, I was shown some previous incarnations. I felt it, but I don't have, not in the way as you already can feel and experience them as these all these different impressions and senses. But it's what I felt, it's everything is just starting into
Yes.
just starting into so much new things, new dimensions. Everything is new.
That's the feeling that I get with everything. All of this, what, you know, it's funny because all the last years it's been like, oh my gosh, this is so new, this is so new. And it was at the time. And now it's again, oh my God, it's all just new again, you know, like, and something from 5 years ago feels old, you know. And I'm thinking, wow, but at that time it was so 100% new, but now again it's new. And that's what it feels like, that, you know, all of these dances of self, this oneness of self, this singularity or whatever, like how the parts are relating in this incredible Christ consciousness love. We haven't even explored the feelings. I must say, like, all of these feelings, you know, that are coming up in this dance, it's not, I haven't seen it in a movie anyway. I've seen a lot of movies in my life and series, and you know, name it. I haven't myself felt it as a human being, and I haven't seen it anywhere. Nothing, no scenes ever invoked like their new feelings of love, because there's never been this kind of incredible dance of love between the two parts, especially this masculine and feminine. And yes, you know, it needed to be that time of when it all feels like one, because that was that first separation, that I don't identify with one or the other. But then for me, it always then comes back, you know, like the masculine and feminine now come back in this new way from this oneness of self. And it is like all these feelings are new, all these things that, and what is the most incredible thing is that all these other parts of self, like other lifetimes, are also experiencing this newness. And I can feel, you know, I can feel all of these varieties of things through them, rather than me having to create every single situation or every single, you know, and in that way I can see why, you know, this is my last lifetime in a certain way, because all the other lifetimes, they already exist and they're also dynamic and changing, you know. So there's no need for me to again, okay, go back, and because I'm not on a linear line anymore. So what does it mean, even last lifetime or first lifetime, when they're all already there, you know, and you can actually access the feelings of them? That's quite incredible. It's very exciting, you know, like to all of this newness and what is possible.
Alexis and I have been speaking, so it's up to you.
In the last weeks, I went with a friend twice in a nearby pine forest, foraging mushrooms, and that was awfully fun. And that friend is not spiritual. It's just a normal person. She's just going through a divorce and has her own problems, but I met her through our German group, and she's a scuba diver as well. And I find you can do things and leave the old stories behind, you know. Not that I could be her father. She's not that young, but she's dating someone else, and my wife knows that I go with her in the forest to collect mushrooms and nothing else, big piece like that. But to me, it's just, and to her, it's the same. We just friends and enjoy the moment, what we're doing, and for me, it's also a learning curve. I also enjoy things differently than I would have done them 10 years ago or so. And so or when I do my bread baking, I started breaking bread recently.
Wow.
And it's all fun. And I realize you can approach it with a new perspective and with a new energy, or you can approach it in the old energy, how you would have done it 20 years ago. But I realized, yes, you always have a choice in a way to expand a bit and open yourself to the new. And but you have to be conscious, I have to admit, you have to do a little bit you have to do for it. Yeah, but it's interesting times, definitely, and all the feelings that go through us. The more you're open to some light, the more I don't want to say darkness, but the more other things come through you but it's done with so much more ease these days than 10, 20 years ago. So I try always then not to be too mental about it, because that is one of my weaknesses, to be too mental. And I realize that it's better I use the wand and take something out.
So we shall now pronounce you Gandalf, and that's how we call you Gandalf.
Gandalf, the Grey.
Even though it is a wrong movie, but it doesn't matter. Because it was the Harry Potter, wasn't it? It was in the Harry Potter. What was Harry Potter?
That image is from Harry Potter,
yeah.
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore,
but
that's
Gandalf,
right. Sorry, Gandalf. Gandalf is from the other one, isn't it?
Yeah. No, but I'm fine too with Gandalf. It's fine too, Alexis.
They're both powerful. I think they're both. Sorry, Dumbledore. That's right. Dumbledore's Harry Potter. Gandalf is from the other trilogy. What's it called? The Hobbit, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the Lord of the
Lord
Rings.
of the Rings. Yeah.
Gandalf, yeah. How are you called?
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
Whatever you want. What do you want to call yourself, Hans Christian? What do you want to call Dumbledore or Gandalf?
That's a good question. I actually like to be both of them.
Both, see? So okay, be both. This is a place where you can be both. You can be all that you want. So you can be both.
Well, I have two friends, and I met them yesterday. So when I went there, we were a beautiful place at the beach. They were sitting there, and I was thinking, oh my God, they look both so dead. Like there is no energy inside of them. They were just looking into the emptiness, and it was like, wow, because there was like no energy inside of them, and both of them, they are wonderful people, but they have their own inner problems. They had a lot of trauma, and they haven't found a ways to come out that kind of space, but they are both so creative, and there is so much beauty, both of them. And then we start a little bit talking, but then we start taking pictures and start being like a creative, because they are both so creative. So it was so fun, and the aliveness what came out of both of them, it was so beautiful to be with them and find the ways to really connect with a deep way. I was enjoying so much.
And it is you who bring that, that inspiration, because for them to be able to relate to you, they would have to awaken that part of themselves. So, and then once it's awakened once, you they can't then, I mean, maybe it sort of goes down a bit, but they know that there is something different out there, and then they go on that journey, and that's quite incredible what you're bringing, you know, to them. And also like Doris, you said also, and you, Hans Christian Gandalf, you know, like how we can really like see in the normal people just how trapped they are, and that helps to really feel that compassion, because whatever they do, you know, like even if they are nasty or mean, or, you know, because before, for me, for example, before I would take those things personally. And then I thought, oh no, I have to separate myself from them. And it was necessary to actually have that separation from them, you know, to go through that inner transformation journey. But now it feels like, okay, because I can see how trapped they are and they're the ones living that pain, I don't actually take even what normal people do personally anymore. It's just a really empowering way to be in life, because, you know, and that's what it, now I understand what when Adamus often says, it's only a master can be of service, because you really are not caught, you're not personal with that, and you can really see that. And all of four of us, we can now see that, how we are of service to others just by our presence. We don't, and we can just use the normal language. And this is what also for me, I'm kind of getting that, you know, for a lot of the next stage of work that I do, for example, not work, you know, but in a joyful way, it's just to use everyday words. It doesn't matter whether it's photography, whether it's creativity, like you say, Ida, any type of creativity, because it's just our presence that gives people that gateway, that open door, you know, it invokes, it reminds them of their own soul, and then they can go on a journey either now or perhaps later. It's just invaluable, this service. And also it feels like a big weight falls off our shoulder, because we don't actually have to do anything except for play, you know. You know,
Yeah.
you know, the thing is like, what, because you can realize that, okay, I can do, you know, dear Gandalf, you could just go into a group where they're baking bread, and you can just bake bread, and you can go pick mushrooms, and you can, it doesn't matter what we do. So that's that incredible freedom that we now have, you know, to really be whatever. And also there's another thing, you know, that to acknowledge that all of the things that we've gone through, like trauma was mentioned, or whether it's the body issues and stuff, you know, we've given ourselves that experience so that we can actually then create a template that then other people also can use. So it's not often even ours, it's ours only because we said, okay, so I'm you know, an experienced master, and I can actually see how I can find ways out of this, and you know, like go to working with the cells in this way. It's quite incredible. I watched this interview with this biologist who's working with cells, and there is this worm-like creature. It's a worm, but it has a head and it has a tail that actually is eternal, physically eternal. And if they, because if it actually doesn't give birth to its next generation, it just divides itself. So basically it never dies. You know, it's not like we have had parents, and then it's like a bottleneck where we get this one cell, two cells, you know, a sperm and an egg, and they merge to become one cell. So that's what he calls a bottleneck. And then they actually come, you know, then they start dividing again into this new being. But this creature just divides itself, and then it grows a new head and it grows a new tail, you know, without ever dying. So now they're doing these experiments, like how he sees this life or our own cells. He looks at our bodies as this mass communication of all these individual cells. And it's so similar to how Adamus explains reality. because it's all communication, and it's so fascinating that this scientist, he's a biologist, also looks at the cells as communication. And for example, he says that any diseasement of the body or anything is just that some cells have started speaking a different language, and they just keep wanting to survive, but they're not part of this whole cooperation and communication. So you just have to learn how to bring them back into, teach them, like if they're starting to speak Chinese, you have to teach them, English again, that kind of. So it's a very, very much, I thought, my gosh, is this Adamus talking, or is this some normal scientist talking? It's like just so fascinating, how all of this happens. So I'm gonna go and see where Gandalf has used his magic wand and made himself invisible.
He's here, but he has disappeared.
Anyway, so the science and what we're talking about is coming together. It's fascinating. It's really incredible.
But it's really interesting talking about the cells. I really have been working intensively with my cells the recent days, and sometimes then I felt that a warmness came in. You once, I think it was in Soul Vibes when you spoke about the orchestra, and so I often I asked them to come back to the orchestra, but then I felt, they are still aside. They want to play their own instruments and things like this. And it took me some weeks to start to love all those cells who are not connected with the others. And the moment I started to radiate my love and my compassion to them, I felt something is going to be turned around. And once I experienced also deep, deep darkness. So I did let the darkness come in and embrace and say, and then I felt in my heart some stitches. It's very often when dark aspects came home, I felt it like this, experienced it. And then afterwards, it was just opening the heart. All the light came in, flowing through. And this new light, I just connect with the light permanently throughout the days. Let the light come in and go in between all the spaces, and I think that's really expanding the light body. Oh, Gandalf is back again.
You just said you've used your magic wand and you've disappeared yourself.
Yeah, I did hold it on the wrong end.
Okay, now you are enlightened again, so we see you. Your magic wand is lightening you. But it's really, and Alexis, what you mentioned before on Facebook, sometimes I saw it's a German magazine called Spectrum, where all the scientists, I mean, it's American, I suppose, but it's always, but I can read it sometimes in German too. And it's very, very interesting how they go on to discover now also this new physics. And Adamus was talking in Kierkegaard about it too, that the physicians do see the separation. They don't know how to work with energy yet. They do see the particles and the waves not being connected, not as oneness. And now I read sometimes that also in NASA they discover what's about the dark holes and new stellar systems and things like this. Though it's really an opening to so many different heavens now, different dimensions, that brings us incredible kind of science fiction, but
science fiction,
science
Well,
fiction, but in
well,
not science
this
fiction.
well, these scientists, these biologists, what they're working on for people to be able to grow new limbs, to be able to
Yeah.
grow new organs, and they've been able to grow new leg in a frog, like. But because they're working with communication with cells, what they said is that they shouldn't, because what in the past, the way the scientists thought, okay, you have to do it with your mind and control everything. But he said, no, the cells already communicate with themselves. So all they have to do is learn how to communicate with those cells. The scientists need to learn, medicine needs to learn how to communicate with those cells chemically, let's say. And so, for example, let's say if someone's leg is cut off in an accident or something, so what they realize now that they don't have to tell cells how to grow a leg, because cells already know how to do this. They've already done it. As a, they've already grown a body, but there is a point of decision. They realize now that the cells communicate among each other, and there is a point of decision where they decide what to do. And in the human body, they tend to decide, okay, we're just gonna, there's no more leg, we're gonna close this wound. But if the scientists can catch the cells before they make that decision, because once they make that decision, it's done. They can't change their mind. But if they catch them before they make that decision and say, no, we're going to grow another leg, then they grow another leg. Perfect. They know exactly when to stop, the shape of it. They know how to do the skin. So that's what, and they realized they don't even need a DNA, because all they need is a cooperation of cells that work together, because that's all the body is, a cooperation of billions and billions of cells that listen and almost like sync together. And when I was listening to this scientist, and he said, okay, it takes 18 months for a frog to grow a new leg, because frogs normally can't, but now they know how to induce those. And he says it's only a few years before people can do that. They can do that. So this, how the medicine is going to work, and this is what I think people don't realize, and that's what we're bringing with this Christ consciousness, with our consciousness. It's just people still think, 10 years, 20 years, it's all going to be the same. But no, in all of the ways, not just AI, but in all of the ways, like in 10, 20 years, everything's going to look so different. Because if you can grow, instead of, let's say, you have an ill heart, or like a heart that doesn't work, when you can just grow a new one, that's something completely different way of operating medicine. And that's why, like, I think in last Living in the Flow, Tanya and I were talking about that. Many of us are now getting this ideas of what our next projects are, because, let's say, like for Tanya saying, okay, so she needs to create this new help to create a new education system and stuff like that, because this new education system that we have now will collapse very quickly.
It's horrible.
Not just because it's horrible, but it's irrelevant, because all of this, what they're teaching now, they're not teaching this leading edge of what certain groups of people are quietly working on. And this leading edge, what they're quietly working on, is way beyond what we would call fantastical, So it's very interesting. And that's what I've been finding, instead of listening what I used to be so much into all the spiritual stuff, now I'm kind of like listening to all this scientific leading edge, and it's just, I'm like, is it sci-fi, or is it fantasy, or what? No, it's like, wow, they're really working on, and in all these different fields, fields of AI, fields of ChatGPT, fields of computer programming with ChatGPT, and all of that. So I'm kind of playing with this ChatGPT and see how it can help me with with just different things and what it can do, and it's very exciting.
But what I felt is that those guys you are connected with, this scientists and so on, they are very open already to the new. to the unknown. If there are scientists really going on straight on like this, they just can't imagine, because
No.
as we know, they know from A to B, but nothing more. But
And these are the very scientists that, let's say, if you ask them what's the advice, you know, to make, that's what they say, is that do not listen to experienced scientists that are in the old route, but just listen. That's what he says. It's like, listen to your intuition and follow your own way, even if other people say it's not going to work. Because if they're caught in that old, and that's what they realize, that there is an old paradigm and they've stepped out of this old paradigm. And that's whether they're cosmologists or biologists or computer scientists, or, you know, like there are this incredible group of people, all different ages, because some of them are very, you know, mature age. And yet it's like you can feel they are open in their mind. They don't have to be spiritual, but you can feel that openness. It's kind of like Elon Musk, whether people like him or not, but he is open to the new, you know, and then he can bring about into the physical reality these incredible projects that, you know, that's his talent. And we don't have to actually do that, because there are other people now. There are other people that know how to do this. They have studied for this. They know, they have practice. We just really need to be here to just keep allowing this Christ consciousness, you know, to be part of our lives. And for me, like lately, I've noticed that, especially that really, that's what you were talking about. I think, Ida, you were saying, is that really needs to be open to everything, to all the darkness, to actually just surrender. Like, you know, like that's what I'm being asked to constantly just surrender to whatever happens, to whatever is, and just allow it to flow through me. I don't have to identify with or dwell on all the more difficult bits or challenging bits, but I have to be able to allow them to flow through me and just surrender to what is. And it's not all the time easy, you know, because it is some hard things, but we are at this stage where, you know, our soul self, or, you know, this Christ consciousness is just asking us, you know what, now trust and just surrender and allow whatever it is, whether it's a trauma, whether it's a past trauma, or whatever, just to flow, but just not identify with it anymore, you know, maybe have some few tears or whatever, but just let it, okay, I accept you, dear part, dear lost part, dear loveless part. And like you said, we don't have to know, we don't have to explain, we don't have to find a story about it at all, nothing, you know. And that's the relaxing part of it, because you realize, wow, actually, as a human here, let's say, you know, lying on my sofa and it's all opening up and surrendering to this, I don't really have to do anything except for be like banks of the river, you know, like banks of the river, and I just allow that all it will just by itself flow and sort itself out. I don't have to even think, is it this life or that life, or this person or that person, nothing. And that's very almost feels like, oh my gosh, I've lost my job as a human, you know. I have to sort out things. There's nothing to sort out. And that also, another thing is that trust. I really am asked to really trust my soul self, to know, but also at the same time, I'm given this now ability to see and perceive how all of the things that have happened to me in my life, how really wonderful they were, you know, even though from the human perspective before I may have had like a more smaller picture or maybe more painful picture, but now I realize, wow. And that's why I can trust myself without actually, because I always create the perfection for who I am. It may not be perfection for someone else, but for me, who I am, it is the perfection. And it's quite incredible when you look from that vantage point, all of the things that I created in my life, you know, as a whole being, not just from a mind point of view. So at the same time, I'm asked to trust, and at the same time, I'm given the ability to trust, because I can perceive things in a very trustworthy way, that I'm realizing, wow, I actually am trustworthy to myself. You know, because especially if you're coming out from traumatic experiences, the last thing you do is you don't trust yourself, because you kind of go through that, okay, why have I created this? You know, if I'm this creator, or why my soul created this, and blah, 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 all of these things. But as I surrender, I'm given both, you know, I'm asked to trust, but I'm also given this ability to trust, to just be okay with being open, and just to also see how all of those things that I used to fear, let's say perhaps, you know, like what people fear now, this, like here in Australia, we have constantly all this crime and youth crime and that, you know, to realize, well, I don't have to fear any of this at all. I can just allow it all to be, and I am safe, you know. So yeah, that's been especially in the last week, especially that is trust, and again, surrender.
That's what my soul was talking to me also permanently. Whenever I did have a connection, trust, be here with you and trust. And I felt it very deeply the moment I do trust. Things that bothered me just as a human just flew away. And also this morning I felt a kind of a dissolving of my human identity, the old human identity. So I think what he was Saint Nicholas, what he wrote about the stars is, I realized it too, that the old first showed up to be recognized, also in a way to be embraced, and then letting go, to let come all this newness, to let it come in. And but again, it's trust. Whenever I connect with my soul, trust, and it's not always easy to trust, but I know it's the only way to get along in this really, in these new times, which are exciting. It's so exciting, and yeah. And once again, I'm so happy to be here, to be present with my consciousness. When I look around, also in my family, my granddaughter was studying. Oh, I can't have any holidays. I have to study and study and study to get my exams. And I only think by myself, oh gosh, dear girl, live your life, because you don't need to know all this. It's IT who is replacing you very, very soon. Why do you study all the time? But I don't say any word. I mean, it's their way, it's their flow. But it's coming back to this kindness for ourselves, or to this easiness, the easy life we are able now to live.
And the sensual life, isn't it? Like discovering, like Hans Christian, you know, you've rediscovered baking bread, and you know, like for me, that's the last few years have been a lot like that, to actually, you know, prepare my own food and enjoy it. And firstly, you know, in this time of when everything is so expensive, I don't even feel it, because all of a sudden, like, I'm not spending a lot of time, because I have now time to stop and enjoy and prepare, rather than just, you know. And this is what I noticed with other people, you know, how they constantly just go and buy everything in the shop. And you have, like, I have to now giggle, you know, for people to say, okay, I'm eating healthy, and then you can see them, they're eating for example, they're eating wheat bix and all of this, and I'm thinking, wow, this is a sweetened cardboard food. To me, all of these cereals are just cardboard, you know, like this whole perspective of what means that what is food. and I can now see, like, when I go out, not that I don't enjoy going out to some restaurant or something, but I can see how, you know, the food is old. You know, for me, let's say I put some food in the fridge, and after 2 days I think, wow, this is old, maybe I can't eat it anymore. And then if you go to a restaurant, you know, like when they say new and fresh, can be 2 weeks old, you know, because I worked as a chef, I know how to I have worked in the London when I was back, you know, I've worked in these and in patisseries, and I know what it means when they say fresh. And because it's just the nature how they prepare, like how we've allowed all these organizations to prepare, to do with our food. So by the time it comes to you, it's old and stale and extra salt and extra all these things, so that it kind of tastes you know, freshy. But it's just people are so, and again, it's that code. People are brainwashed into this. It's kind of like when you go, you know, that you're supposed to go to the gym. Like I know, for example, you know, some mother that has 3 children, full-time job, and then she doesn't feel that she's successful, even though she's got like really good money and full-time job and all these things. But she doesn't feel successful until she starts getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, so she can go to the gym before then coming home, getting 3 kids ready to school, then coming and having a full-time job, and then on the weekends, you know, driving kids to all these it's just the craziness. And yet for a normal person, this is like, oh, a normal, good, successful life. And it's like, this is not life at all, you know. But you can't actually say things like that, because when they're so caught into this cult of this kind of living, there's nothing you can tell them, you know. And oh, today I've done so many push-ups and I've done so many of this, you know, I've tortured my body, oh, I'm so successful and I'm so good, you know. and then I've eaten powder that I bought, this powder that you go to shop and buy, and I'm like, it's not food even what you're eating. But you know, and yet you can't really. These are the kind of things that you really do come when you start interacting with normal people. You kind of have to really stop yourself and say, okay, I just have to not really say anything, because the thing is, if you start talking, they don't understand, and also it creates that kind of barrier again. I find that for me is the best is I just let it be. I don't even talk about what I do or don't do. I don't even, you know, because if you start lecturing and stuff, all of a sudden it's just this barrier. And especially if you live in a way that to them looks very unsuccessful, you know, because a lot of the things we do to them, you know, to a normal person, you're actually a bit of a loser kind of, you know, because our life, it becomes so different in this quietness and simplicity, and, you know, love himself rather than disciplining and be harsh and be boom, you know, like an army sergeant in a boot camp, you know, like it looks like, oh my gosh, you're a bit of a loser, you know, it can look like that. And so it is quite a full-on thing, especially I'm thinking, you know, Ida, for someone that is much younger in this way, because, you know, like as part of getting older is that you stop listening to peers and you don't allow peers to push you. But I really admire, especially much younger people, that they can already do that in that age when I was still so much is like under this peer influence.
But once again, Ida, you changed so much. Whenever I see you, my heart is open because now you did trust yourself, and you came back into yourself and expressing yourself. Or I see your pictures on Facebook, the video, it was so beautiful. And my heart is dancing when I realize how you enjoy life now.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so happy about this transformation that I'm going through. And yes, I have to say that I have been discovering that I enjoy so much to like be a creative, like taking photos of nature or someone taking pictures about me, and like taking what is it, like a moving picture. I don't know what, taking all kind of videos and creating. I made there are like candles. It's like
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Hmm.
I'm so happy every time I see these things, and I have over 100 of
Oh.
this, so I can make a really many of them, and they're so beautiful. I'm like I would like to spend my rest of my life just playing with this art experience and do creative stuff and just enjoying.
And you know, this is so possible now because you create your own business online, and you can, you know, you can sort of do classes on how to create candles. And I mean, there is actually no end to where you can take any of these. And putting videos in reels, and you know, it's just like, ooh, it just all opens up, and at the same time you're doing something that you enjoy. Like there are some artists, there's lots of videos online also, you know, how to become, like, let's say if you have some kind of a physical art like that, how to actually keep creating it and making it into something that does bring you an income. It's quite incredible, all the things that people can do now.
Yes, it is, and I have saw like a YouTube. There are coming to my way like some YouTube channels where people are like filming their life. They live so beautiful life on the nature, and they just do all kind of videos, and then they create some kind of art stuff and sell it, and they are living very abundant life, and it is something that I would like to experience myself too.
And it's
Somehow.
absolutely possible for you. Absolutely it is.
Yes.
But as Christian, I bake my own bread too.
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
lots of almonds or other walnuts and things like this, and yeah, it's just, it tastes good, it is good, and yeah.
Ah,
And I do
I haven't.
everything for me too.
I haven't put any seeds yet in the bread. I'm experimenting. I'm doing sourdough, so I don't use any yeast. And the latest I did is 100% whole grain, 50% rye, and 50% wheat. The next one I will try 100% rye bread, all whole grain. Of course, they are very dense because they don't love to go and be very fluffy, but they're tasteful, and they're really they make you full. You eat two slices with a nice butter on it. I love butter.
Me too.
It's still better. It's better than margarine. Margarine is actually quite unhealthy. Yeah.
So next thing, you'll be making your own butter. So by next month.
Oh no. Actually, I buy a butter
And
at Woolworths.
then by next month you have your own goat. You'll have sea This is how it starts. You go down this rabbit hole of things, isn't it? Like, just like Ida does with her candles, you know, you start one thing and it just, expands. And like with bread, you start, oh, butter, all right, let's make it, you know, and that's how it's working so beautifully.
Yeah,
But-
you know, some big corporations want us to eat grasshoppers and 3D
Oh, no.
printed meat. You know, I rest my case. I have really, I'd say, what? WF, TF. Oh,
And it is very essential in how you work with the herbs, to smell the herbs and all of these bits. Ida, do you put a lot of different nice smelling things into your candles?
Yes, I have essential oils. Yes. And I have to say that I love cooking and baking too so much. It's just so fantastic to do all kind of experience, and I just love food so much. And yeah.
Well,
Me
because
too. I
because
I just started.
you go.
I just start without thinking, putting things together, and I tell myself, okay, I create. Let's see what's coming out, and it's so fun. There were compositions I never would have thought before of it, and it's just fun. Well, if it isn't good, it's not good looking. Well, it's just for me. I know it tastes good. It's not for the others. It's for me. But I have this fun of experiencing, creating, and yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, all I was gonna say is how, you know, like the way the society has made it, you know, to become these consumers of processed everything is like now I can really notice how they make everything that's actually good into unpopular, unfashionable, and actually almost shameful, you know, because this is what, like, I remember all the different years, you know, when I was kind of I thought I was a cool person and I was a modern person, and you know, giving up. Oh, you look at cooking, for example. Oh, cooking, no, I don't have time for that, you know. And that's what it like this consumerism makes you into that, so that you rely on everything. You go to the shops for everything, and you keep having to then work and keep having to spend all this money on buying and then you have to work more. Because I have to laugh when I remember when they used to say, you probably remember when they used to say, oh, we're getting all these machines, you know, into the kitchen and into the house to save time. And then one day I woke up and I'm thinking, which time has it saved? What time is saved? What do I do with this saved time? Meaning that I can just be a much better worker and spend more time at work, to work for some billionaire money, you know. It's not that I get more money to take home. I just can keep buying all these machines to save me time so I can work more for someone else, kind of thing, you know, and keep shopping and buying all these new things. So you never really win. Like, people have all these dishwashers and microwaves. I, by the way, never owned I can use it like at work. I've used it and stuff, but I've never owned microwave because I thought I'm never going to do this. You know, because and I always have time to make I don't need microwave for nothing, and I don't miss it, and it's not part of my life. So it's not like I've given up, you know, like I'm denying myself something. It's just like, what would I use it for? I have time to make coffee. I have time to smell beautiful. I have time to cook. I don't need So I have no frozen food. You know, there's aisles in the shop I don't even go through because they don't sell. And yet, you know, there's quite a few aisles I don't even go through because there's nothing in those aisles for me to buy, because it's all just that cardboard food, you know, and it doesn't even taste like, once you get not used to it, to your own cooking in that way, it doesn't even taste good, you know, like, and so you kind of step out of all of that, those kind of really brainwashing things, and you kind of come back to this real stuff. And the funny thing is, like, you know, all of us are from Europe. I remember in Europe, when the food that my grandparents used to cook, that we used to grow, you know, and it was an everyday food. Then I went into the Western world, English speaking Western world, and all of a sudden I thought the canned tomato was the best thing ever. That was being modern, you know, and a McDonald's, that's being modern. and then all of this healthy food came, and all of the stuff that was an everyday food in our homes is now super expensive healthy food, you know, even the sauerkraut and all of the different grains, and you know, like it's quite interesting to watch this kind of development of things, and how you know, like you have to really stand on your own 2 feet and just be okay with what you know is your truth, regardless of what this world is trying to mold you into. Do you find that the same? Do you find similar?
Yeah. I mean, I never, I always, when I was working at my family and things like this, I always went to the peasant to buy my vegetables there. I neglected all the others.
Farmer.
Farmer, yeah. And here in the Black Forest, for instance, Hans Christian, we have a very good bio butter. It's so good, I can tell you. and milk and cream. Oh, I love the cream in a bottle, in a glass bottle. It's really fantastic. But I have the chance to go to the market. There are not many people, but when I drive with a trainer, few stations, there is a market with old women. They pick all their berries and sell it out of their garden in the morning, and then it's getting to the market. So I bought all the berries at their stand, and they are so delicious. It's just a wow for the senses to sense it, to really sell it, to sense it like it was when as a children we went in our garden to pick the salad just before dinner, and the tomatoes and so. And this old woman, they have these old sorts again, and they taste so deliciously. I don't need anything else. It's just smelling. And enjoying it. It's really sensitive, and I think people do come back to some kind like this again. Yeah, our senses are developing. But you know, I was used to it. As I think I mentioned, I didn't have only the gallery. I had also an import for Bordeaux wine, but only for the best one. And so I had to develop my, or they were already there, the senses in the nose. I was very, very good in smelling until I got sinuses, and then it was covered up, and now it comes back again. And like you, I can smell it. If it is old or not, I don't have to look. I can smell it. I can feel it. And even if it is bio, I also said one in a shop, you know, you offer bio stuff here, but if it is old, it's not bio anymore, because all the vitamins and minerals, they have gone. So, but yeah, I go to the market and look around what they're having, what my soul, what my body is asking for, and then I buy. And
yeah, me too. I go shopping with Michael. I say, okay, Michael, let's go shopping. And he's like, okay, do you want this melon? Do you want this capsicum? And it's just a feeling. Yeah, you pick, okay, oh yeah, this one. And we have this wonderful market here too, where there's a lot of, I mean, some stalls sell the imported and all of that, but there are some stalls that grow their own, and oh gosh, it's just so delicious to go. And also, like, I grow now quite a bit in my own pot garden as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wonderful.
As soon as I have a garden again, I grow it besides all the flowers and stuff.
But you know, you can grow a lot on your windowsill. There's so many things you can grow on your kitchen windowsill.
I have just parsley there, and how's it called, salvia, and that's it. I can't do much more. But I get it fresh from the garden, and tomorrow my sister comes from Switzerland. They have a big garden, so I get all the herbs and the stuff out of the garden there. It's fine, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife love herbs. We even have Artemisia and
Oh.
Rucola and
Mhm.
and some others. I forgot the names, but we like to get quark, which is
Mhm.
very expensive in Australia, very
Oh,
cheap in Germany compared to
yeah.
this, but a very nice quark with all these herbs, small chopped
Mm.
onions also with potatoes is just I love it, and it smells and tastes wonderful, and that's a very nice dish.
I love it too. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, Alexis, when I was at Tahiti, there was the big market of in Tahiti with all these wonderful fruits, like you have also in Australia. And I couldn't have enough, you know, the plant when we went to the ananas plantages and so on, mango and well, all these most beautiful fruits. And once, as we were sailing there, but we had a small boat to go there and there. Once we were on a part, there was the only river on this island, and it was all already said. There is a guy, he calls him John or Jim, something like this. If he does catch you, he shows you his garden and all his fruits. And we weren't long on the river. He came along. Ah, where do you come from? And so on. Well, I show you my botanical garden and all the fruits. So we did buy for going off with a sailing boat afterwards for some time. He climbed up the trees to get some coconuts for us, some bananas, really big bananas, and mangoes and papayas, and I don't know what else. Oh, he came along with a wonderful black fruit, very sweet. How does it? Is it called?
Chocolate fruits, chocolate
Yeah,
fruit.
yeah, something is like this. Oh, how delicious. So we were covered on a sailing boat for about a week with all the fruits, but it was an ananas we bought. It was just delicious.
But you know,
And
I find that you know, it like because I was very impressed with all the tropical fruits and stuff, but I realized that you know it doesn't matter where you are, that if you have delicious local fruit, that's what really matters, you know, because for example here sometimes I miss those delicious wild strawberries and the wild
yeah,
blueberries and apples
yeah,
and apricots and peaches and cherries that don't taste the same, you know, here. They taste because they have to be sent from somewhere else. So it's kind of the same as what you get with, you know, if you
yeah,
try to buy a mango in Europe, it's not the same because it had to travel so far. But you have all of those your local foods that it does. So it doesn't really matter. That's the best thing as long as you have, you know, the grown the sun-filled fruit of the local.
yeah.
That's what is incredible. So, and then it's wonderful to go and travel somewhere, of course, and try something, you know, local there. But it doesn't really matter where a person is, you know, because that was my big thing in the old days was, oh my gosh, things are always better somewhere else. That's what I always thought. You know, the grass is always greener somewhere else. And now I realize, you know, I can appreciate all of the things that I had when I was in Europe, and I can appreciate what I have now. And wherever that I move, or you know, enjoy the travel, whatever, it's as long as it's fresh from there, it's delicious.
And we do have all the fruits now. Tomorrow when I go to the market, it's everything. There's strawberries and freezes and yeah, all that stuff.
And you get all of those beautiful fruits from Macedonia. I remember all of that. Oh my gosh, so good. And different tomatoes, so tasty. And capsicums, and because in shop here we get those really thick capsicums, a bit tasteless, but you know, if you grow them at home, very different. So, but yeah, when I go to Europe, I always, oh my gosh, the taste. I want to go now. My next country I want to go, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should go for a year, is South Africa. I don't know, for some reason I'm really drawn to there. to South Africa?
It's last year I was drawn very much to South Africa too. And I think once we spoke about that, Africa is going to develop the entire country much more than all these called Western countries. Maybe also this cultivated Australia or so on. It's the Africans who do develop, who are so creative now, and who are open to this new technology. So what I feel is that just in Africa, it's really going very, very fast because we don't have anything to lose. We in the Western countries, people think, oh, what do we lose? And things, can you really be open to all the new? They are just natural, and it's there.
Well,
So,
there's an interesting thing. You know, that guy who channels Cryon, Lee Carroll. So his next life is going to be in Africa. So he's going to be born in Africa. He already knows that, because that's what also he says, that so much is going to happen. The next stage is going to be so much there. But I was thinking also, what do you all think? Because, you know, like how in the Western countries, there's so many people have vaccinated themselves, and now, you know, there's this mRNA in their bodies, and there's so many vaccine injuries and things like that. While in Africa, they've escaped. Like the coronavirus is pretty much gone from it. You know, like how when Corona was happening, everyone, oh, poor countries, Africa, we should send all the vaccines to Africa, or they're all gonna die. And yet, very quickly, they've developed immunology naturally, and also the Omicron, the last much less harsh version of coronavirus actually happened there, because, you know, when you look at the world was kind of saved by Omicron, because if it was still Delta in the first ones, it would still kill a lot of people. But because Omicron happened and it was so infectious and it is so mild, it wasn't the vaccines that changed, you know, the situation with coronavirus. It was kind of like the Omicron, which actually kind of naturally happened in Africa. So that's a very interesting. Like I find it interesting. I don't know what you think, but now you have these huge countries, you know, like for example, you have Chinese population that have used the old-fashioned vaccine. You have, I don't know what happened in India and in Asia. A lot of the places didn't have put this mRNA. It's only the Western countries we've put this different DNA thing into our bodies, and we keep putting this thing into our bodies. So it's going to be interesting how that affects the future of the peoples, because now they can see that these mRNAs are actually having huge long-term effect on people's bodies. So I find that quite interesting to observe. It's kind of like, again, the world has split itself into half, you know. So what do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not vaccinated, not at all, not even the first one. And I told my children they should not do it, but they preferred to do it because they wanted to travel, they wanted to go to restaurants and stuff like this. And so I hope that their bodies will fend off with time and with enough light in their body that spike protein. But because I was critical of it, I have followed a lot, and I'm well aware we have a huge over mortality in the UK, in Germany, in Australia. And it's most
almost
likely
20%,
yeah.
Isn't it?
And it has to do with the vaccination. That's one thing, but I take then one step back and say, okay, a lot of souls are leaving now because they cannot cope with the extra light that comes to the planet. And so their souls want to leave also. So basically, one part of me says it's a bloody crime to put this vaccination on the people and still doing it. And another part says, yes,
It's
but
a
maybe
way
it's
out.
just it's a way out, and maybe part of a higher plan I can't see, but I'm still,
Because a
have
lot of the
very mi-
a lot of young people are especially affected and dying, you know, and there's a
Yes.
lot of like, I
Mhm.
can see there's just these incredible heart attacks, what I see even at work and stuff, the heart attacks and diabetes, strokes, and also among Shambra, you know, like there's all of a sudden people are having, like there's two that I've noticed today publicly. I don't know if there's two Shambra that posted. One from Finland, one from England, that have said, okay, I'm experienced this, I've been half paralyzed on the left side. So these are all of the things from the vaccines. I don't know whether they've taken the vaccine, but these are thought to be part of what happens with the vaccine, because there's a change of protein that happens, then they have clots. And also if you have the predetermination towards diabetes, towards cancer, towards all of these things, that it's actually a vaccine injury, but the medical profession is actually turning a blind eye towards that. So I work in Queensland Health, which is the state government organization for health, and they're still constantly saying, get all the vaccine, get, you know, it's a completely blinded, and there's no way they would even, we're not even allowed to discuss this or talk about. So me personally, I would never trust anyone from a state government agency who even works there, even just a simple administration person, because now I see it's like a taboo. If you want your paycheck, you're not allowed to talk about these things, and people are just actually not quite happy, but they take vaccines or whatever to keep their paycheck going, because that is so important to them. So it's quite interesting to observe all of this. But it's like, yeah, like you said, Hans Christian, I think it's like 20% in Australia of these extra deaths or something. It goes between 5 to 20. It keeps moving up and down, doesn't it? The graph. What about in Finland? Is it the same in Finland, Ida? You don't know?
I don't know. I'm not like being so like reading about this stuff, but when this vaccine thing was going on, I was very state of fear and unconsciousness then, and I remember I was fearing so much these vaccines, and I was like, I'm never gonna take them to myself. But then there was a weird situation that I was working with little kids. So there was like, they were saying I need to take, and because I was living so unconsciousness and so like fearful mode with myself, I took one vaccine, and I remember it was like putting it to me, and I was, oh my god, the fear what I was feeling there. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die or something. But now it is my body, and I don't worry about it. I think I have a very strong body. It's been going through a lot of this lifetime. I have done it very much bad stuff, and I know vaccine is different, but when I was a little kid, I need to take a lot of medicines and stuff to my body, put some kind of weird stuff. I had so much allergies, and then of course the drugs I was using and all kind of stuff. But my body is, I feel it's very strong and very capable to stable itself. But nowadays I wouldn't take any vaccines. I don't need anything.
Me too. I took two because I thought I was going to go to Europe at that time, and you had to. But now I'm not going to ever take this mRNA anymore. And like you also, I feel like I've been bitten by snake and spiders and God knows what. I'm thinking my body is very not just strong in that, but this is part of my energy as well. So I'm just taking it, okay, it's part of my energy, can't hurt me. But the normal people think in a different way. So I'm kind of thinking about it also from a normal point of view. But you really have to, I find that I really have to just really step into that belief that, okay, so because it looks like, like you have to really believe my body, my energy, and it's all healthy. Like when I had that tropical virus, here they call it Ross River virus. And I was kind of awakened that time, so I was really shocked when I got it. And when you get it, normally, for some people it puts them into bed for a year at least, or for some people they never recover because they always then have that tiredness syndrome and all in my age, especially like if there's age of me. But for me it was actually very quick, because I kind of I recovered very quickly, and I was at that time just doing everything. I had some hard times, and I had to really every night, okay, talk to the virus and talk to my cells. And I said, okay, dear virus, you've entered my body, because I was also that time confused. It's like, why am I doing this? I'm a master, I'm not supposed to. And yet it helped me to go deeper, because I didn't realize I had so much woundedness, especially towards my own masculine side, and that's what that helped me to really surrender deep into all of that. And then when it all came out, then that virus also resolved itself. I don't know whether I still have it or not, but it doesn't affect me, because you're supposed to get all this pain in your joints and all sorts of things. I have nothing, and I can walk. I don't have this constant tiredness syndrome or anything. So it just disappeared, because I told him, look, you've come into my body, I'm ascending, I'm enlightening, so you have to enlighten yourself also. And that's that. There's no other, that's it. So it really does require us to really believe what we're saying, to really believe, and then the body believes as well. And because once there are things that affect our body, it's the hardest thing, I find. It's easy to say, oh, it's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's a little bit more nebulous. But when you have issues of the body, is when you really get to find out what I believe and what I don't believe. You really, because it's physical, it's tangible. So it put me into that really whole different thing when I have to really, okay, I have to step into full on next level belief that yes, I'm a master, yes, I am this, yes, and not that some virus can do this. So I'm not, this kind of is one of the functions, I guess, of a virus and all of the things for those people that are awake, because it really asks you to, do you believe that all is your energy? Do you believe you're a master? Are you really? So then you have to really live that. But it's interesting to see it from other people's, point of view also, how, and like you said, Hans Christian, that people are leaving, but it's interesting that so many young people are leaving. And if you work in mental health kind of thing, this last few weeks with this energy, people have become extremely even more suicidal. There's just so many suicidal people at the moment, all different ages. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's quite incredible in this way, how it's throwing them this way and that way. And because they can't hide things anymore, and they all of a sudden think they're possessed and they have demons coming up and all sorts of things, because if you don't know, aspects come up and you don't know what they are. The normal human knowledge or medicine is so inadequate to handle or even answer these things, because all it has is pills, and medication for depression and anxiety. And people are feeling anxiety, firstly because they don't know what's happening with the earth and the weather, but also because they feel all this darkness. There's no more that veil, that protection that would keep all of that darkness underneath. And all of a sudden all of this is coming up, and they're anxious and they want to jump out of their skin, and they drink and they more drug use, and it's becoming a bit crazy. you know, and I know that our non-physical friends have warned us about this, but now it's kind of here. Are you noticing these things too a little bit, or?
Yes, what I noticed the recent days, I did meet a neighbor in the wood, and she was so angry and aggressive. I mean, I know her since some years, a very intelligent woman, and so on and so on. And what you mentioned about the vaccination in Germany, it was a law to get, if you work, you have to get vaccinated. I got one vaccination because of my daughters. I thought we are going to meet for the birthday of my younger daughter. And I got it after I've been in Portugal. In Portugal, I've been fine. And afterwards, I got the vaccination, and I felt bad. Really, immediately after the vaccination, I got tired later on. I don't know what else came up. And then in May, I was ill. I thought it's just a flu, something else like this, but I was lying in bed with high fever, and my bones were hurting, and so on and so on. And once my soul told me, go and see a doctor. So I went to him. It's my neighbor. And he said, oh, yeah, I know. You've got all your health issues because you got vaccinated. If you would have got the vaccination, you wouldn't have got the virus at all. So he is one of this. He was one of those doctors who said, never, if you don't need it, never get vaccinated. It does hurt your body. And he gave me a pile of articles from medical journals telling medicines that it does hurt the body. It's not like this, like easy like this. So, and he told me, there was also then the law that all the medical personnel had to get vaccinated until before. For 2 years, I looked after this all these illness people and so on, the ill people. The moment I got vaccinated, I got Omicron. So with him, it was really funny to get this, to have this understanding. But if it would have gone on like this, they were on the way that everybody, especially elder ones like me, there's an obligation to get vaccinated. You have to go. So I thought at this time, if this law is really coming over here, I leave Germany. I wouldn't do it.
I'm not ever gonna get vaccination, and I would do, if it was all again, I would do like Hans Christian. I would not get anything.
I wouldn't have. I was before so sure. I listened to my body. Shall I get vaccinated or not? And I did speak with Tanya once about it, and she said too, no, you don't need it. And then it was one point, oh, it's because of the family. And I know my elder daughter, as a medical doctor, she's working in the hospital. She's very keen on getting vaccinated. I wanted to be there at the family stuff. So this was the only reason I did it. And well, then I got Omicron. I didn't see the family because of all that stuff.
For me, I didn't get any symptoms of COVID. But the thing is, me too, when I was getting a vaccine, it was from my deeper self. It's like, okay, go and get it. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, so it's my job now to really be okay with this and not allow this mass consciousness belief that it can control me, because it can't. So for me, I didn't get any COVID or any issues or anything. But I must say that I have, at that time, even there were like people saying don't get vaccinated, but they were saying if you do get, like, take some, for example, make a raw ginger and turmeric and things like that, because this mRNA has it actually invites the it creates this permanent infection in your body, because
Oh, really?
Yes, that's why you have bone pain, bone pain and stuff. It
Yeah.
can, not in all people. It's funny because they don't know why some people yes and some people no. But what happens is that, in a normal vaccine, because this new, they call them vaccine, but they're not really. So in a normal vaccine, what they do is they either take a part of the virus or they disable it so much that it can't hurt you, and inject that dead parts maybe into your body, and then your immune system recognizes it and starts to deal with it. So the next time when the real virus, a whole virus comes, your body immune system recognizes it quickly and can eliminate it very quickly. That's how normal vaccines work. This mRNA, what it does, what they were saying is that when you get it into your hand, that it's going to stay localized in the muscles of your hand. But of course, all of your whole body has lymph system, and lymph system it's like blood. It goes throughout your whole body, except the lenses in your eye. They don't have that. The only parts of your body that don't have that lymphic system, the liquid. So it takes this mRNA instructions, because these mRNA, what they do is they ask the cells of your body to create the spike protein, which is this COVID protein. So it's supposed to have happened only in your arm, right? It's localized, but of course it goes along all your body. So then you have this DNA instructions traveling all over your body. So then different parts, different cells of your body starts creating this spike protein, which of course the immune system of your body recognizes as a virus, as a foreign object, and it creates an infection and inflammation because it starts attacking those cells, which are actually your own cells. See, so that's why you have that myocarditis and pericarditis, which is inflammation of the heart muscle. For some people, they have perhaps they find, like, when after they pass on, they find that maybe all of their veins, the top layer, the body has destroyed, because the veins, there's some parts of the body there that start creating that spike protein much easier, and then the body itself, the immune system, starts to attacking that. So that's why you then have all sorts of clots and constant infection, almost like rheumatism. It becomes an autoimmune disease because your own immune system starts attacking your own body. So again, from the next level though, like I'm thinking, okay, so if that's what's happening again, is that miscommunication between the cells. So my job is then to make sure again that all of my own cells are understanding each other and working together and communicating and recognizing and not attacking, themselves. So I think that's the trick. But like from a herbal point of view, like for example, I normally have I grate raw what's that root? You got turmeric and raw ginger, raw garlic, a lime or a lemon, and raw honey, and put in water, and maybe have like a little bit of a drink of that kind of stuff every day, because that helps with inflammation stuff, natural kind of remedies as well, that can help some people that have taken, for example, let's say that have taken or have this kind of immunology issue. So you can do that, things like that.
Also,
but you go.
Also, pine needle tea is very good to detoxify spike protein. I think you can even boil it or simmer it for 5 minutes, but you could also just pour hot water on it. But pine needles, you could have very health remedy qualities.
That's funny, because my body once talked to me because of pine, not the needles, but what's die Rinde outside, what's called?
The bark.
The bark, yeah. So that's funny that you mentioned it. But what I bought is astaxanthin. It's from Hawaii, from the Alps, from within the water. It's also detoxing. And once I got it, I got Omicron. I did speak with my cells and with the virus. But what I realized, it's really a damage of the body, of the eyes, of really of bones and everything like this. So I'm always looking that my leukocytes and so are in balance. It's not too bad, but yeah, what just comes up now to me, it's I have to do some detoxing again to get it out. It's still probably.
Doris, there is a doctor in Germany. His name is Florian Schilling, and he is a autoimmune specialist, and he has treatments and how to approach long COVID. And he says if you have vaccination damage, that's almost the same treatment what you give for long COVID, you give for the vaccination damage. And he knows certain labs in Germany that can do certain blood tests to find certain markers which a normal lab would never find, because they are not what usually the medical community looks at. And he has protocols. So if you Google Florian Schilling, I think you should find him. And otherwise I could send you a link, but I don't have your email.
Alexis has it.
Do you want me to send you to email? I can do, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah. If you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
It's nothing to be hidden.
Yeah. No, I'll send it. Not a problem. I'll send it soon after we finish.
That would be fine, because I feel I have yes, there is something resisting there. For instance, my eyesight was sometimes very difficult. But I had a time where I couldn't see with my left eye. It was all dark. And now as I did send all the time the light into my eyes, if I close the right eye, I can see, well, I would say 50 or 60%. So it has already increased. But I don't have strength anymore in my body. And I have respirations issues. So as I am living up the hill, I always have to go down, really down and uphill again. Oof, it's and I didn't have these difficulties before, not at all. So it's all related to this vaccination. But it's very interesting what you mentioned, Alexis, because I remember once it was prognosed, was it 2020 or 2021, when Adamus mentioned that this mRNA is changing the
DNA structure.
DNA structure, but it does support the body. So
that's right. He did say that. It's interesting. So that's why it's very cool that we're actually discussing this, because there are all of these layers, isn't it? You know, there is a layer that okay, we can do all of these herbal things to help, and then there is that spiritual layer where we have to realize, okay, all cells have that opening of divinity, of Christ consciousness, and communication, and the song of the soul, this coming together into oneness out of war, you know, because the cells also can war against each other. And there's so many different parts and aspects that we're working with, and it's also part of our work, isn't it? And then yes, that too, I know that Adamus was saying that is introducing the new layer of the DNA structure, but now, you know, with the scientists those scientists that are working on that microbiology, they realize, you know, with that creature that they're working with that never dies really, it has a very defective DNA actually. So what they realized is that how the cells are actually, they see the cells now as a community that is dealing, that resolves issues. So, and that overcomes problems. So it's a whole new different way of looking at cells. So before, you know, they kind of looked at cells as them being a little bit dumb or whatever, you know, because they thought, oh, the mind is the one that does everything. But actually the mind is the last one to come to the party, you know. So there was a lot of life before the mind developed, you know. So there is, even in human life, like, as you know, the children, the babies, they don't have mind, they're feeling, emotion, and body. So but there's still, it's the biggest development that happened is when the mind isn't present, you know, like from one cell you get a whole body, this complex body that happens, and then the mind comes on top of that. So but what they're the way they're looking at this is that the cells, you know, they don't look at black and white anymore, but a continuum. So they don't look at birth or death as a thing happens in an instant, but a continuum. And they look at cells just being this community of living things, living beings that get together, start singing the same song, and overcome problems. So that's what the cells do. And in this creature that lives forever, it has, even though it has this defective DNA, they realize that the cells have found a way to work with that DNA and can create a perfect body, even when the DNA is not so perfect. And so even within the human, you know, like, because the science up to now was saying, well, the DNA is the most important thing, but now it's like, hang on a minute, no, even if the writing is not as perfect, the cells know how to work with that and can create things despite that, because as long as they know what they're doing together, and as long as they're doing it in unison, they can overcome any issue. And that's why you also have, up until now, for example, you know, some people, like if you speak with doctors, like in emergency, you know, they will tell you, well, some person can come with minor things and they just die because their cells don't know how to resolve this. And some person can come with, we think, wow, this person's definitely gonna die, and then they recover completely. They can't actually, even doctors with all their instruments and knowledge and experience, they can't say that. And it's because, like what Ida was saying so beautifully, is like, if your cells know how to deal with issues, like, then they just resolve it, whether you have a good DNA, whether you have a bad DNA, whatever, they just know, even physically, even if we don't add this spiritual component to it. And so anyway, for me, this is like a very fascinating thing that I'm feeling into and playing, and I don't have all answers yet. That's why I'm really glad that we're kind of talking, and I know that you're going to go all, and then we can talk more next time, because you'll have insight, you know, your own insights, because it's so, all of this is very new, isn't it? And so there's lots of different levels and layers to this. There is not just this one truth. So even this, that the DNA will change, is not really that important anymore in the scheme of things, when you realize how. I perhaps will send you also, each one of you, that link to the interview with this guy, if you're interested. I don't know, but if you know, because it just makes you, it's kind of like, wow. You know how you have an icon when your brain explodes, and it's like, oh my gosh, my brain just exploded.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that information about this cell communication, growing limbs, and being that doesn't die. That I find it very interesting. If you send that, would be great.
Yes, I will. And the thing is, what they've done is, I mean, I don't agree with some of the scientists what they do with animals and stuff, but you know, what they've done is fascinating. For example, they had these frog embryos. You know how you have those little baby frogs, and they tried to confuse the cells so that the cells would actually grow, give them wrong instructions so that the cells would, when they grow in the body, the frog body, that they would put mouth on the side and the tail in the front and all of these things. But what they realized that the cells, they know what they're supposed to do, and they've ignored those instructions and moved the mouth to the front where it's supposed to be. They moved the ears to where it's supposed to be. So the scientists couldn't confuse the cells for very long. They just overcome whatever issue there was, and they just did still create this perfect body. It's just quite, it's fascinating. It's so mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I will send you the link. I'll send you the link and then see if what you come up with, because you know, I think it is up to us really to kind of really come up with these new solutions as to what to do with the body, or at least you know, like to.
But you know, my soul told me this morning too, all the body stuff I did experience in recent times, it's just look at it as an experience and be here as somebody, who can afterwards, let's say, spread out the wisdom out of it, how to handle it. So from this point of view, from this perspective, I really could accept everything. And it does change. And also Adamus was talking 2 or 3 weeks ago in Kiak, that coming into this soul space, soul SOLA, into singularity, that the DNA doesn't have this importance anymore for our body like it has had until now. With the Aniatron, and so he mentioned that the Aniatron, everything will leave, and it's just one point. It's a singularity.
I guess it's just that communication in the Song of Soul, isn't it? And isn't it funny that science is also saying that?
Yeah, that we have discovered this communication of the cells and just everything. Communication in between all the spaces. This is really, it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, and interesting.
Well, because like if we think about DNA also, DNA is instructions come from ancestors, isn't it? So if we are then becoming this new human being that is independent, we've released the the ancestry, then we can't then take on DNA. And also, if we're not going to be born again, this is the last lifetime, so we don't need DNA anymore. And yet we do have to find this different way. Not that we have to find this, it's just that we have to manifest a way to be physical without being born, but to be physical as you, as an individual, you who you are in your sovereign space, rather than this combination of ancestral instructions that come through DNA and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. But I just reminded me too, you were speaking about the death of young people. And I very often got the impression that they went on purpose because they want to come back they want to be reborn into this new time, not with a new body, and not being stuck in this old body, something like this, or going to New Earth, because they didn't want to stay over here. But it's really interesting. It's sorry.
Just us old farts do the long, hard way. No, I just want to say, Jim Self said something, a nice analogy, which I liked. He said, many are asking about the light body, where is it and why can't I have it? And he said, well, you may actually have the right light body already, it's like a Ferrari in your garage. but the road to your garage is not built yet. So you cannot take it out because you have to wait till this road is built, and the road is more an analogy to your physicality and your consciousness. And he says, so don't think your light body is not there. It may already be there, but you cannot drive it out of your garage yet. You have to wait till your road is there.
But
So
I can feel the light body. If I call him in, I really can feel it. And I had the impression that the light body is expanding, but of course not complete yet. But I can really sense it. I can feel it.
But for me, as we're talking, you know, the feeling that I get as we're discussing all of this is that really the biggest experiences for all of us are actually just still yet to come, because now we're here where we're dealing with, again, things of the body, because we now, you know, we've integrated the shadow, the light, the dark, the masculine and feminine to whatever degree we have. And now it's like, okay, so now it comes the more challenging parts, and perhaps even more rewarding, because now we're in the physicality, you know. Let's see what we can do with this physical body, because it can't stay the same. But also, you know, like it just with this being able to so jump in and out of dreams and jump in and out of your own past, what so-called past lifetimes and future lifetimes, even this lifetime scale becomes so different, you know, because what does it mean to be born or to die? It becomes meaningless when you always just are. So in this, when you always just are, what does it mean to be young and old? It doesn't really mean anything, you know, like it makes no sense anymore. So what happens with the physical structure within this kind of context? So that's what it interests me. And also another thing also, you know, like that I've become aware of, I don't know if you're aware, is this being a parent to your own facets. So this has become much more for me like into awareness, because all of a sudden I realized, wow, so I'm now expected as a master, I'm now expected to be an oversoul, a parent to my facets, because this is what it means to be a souled being. A souled being means that you can create all these parts, just like I, Alexis, am, let's say, part of what I call of my soul that I call Michael, and it let all of its parts free. You know that when you become when a part becomes enlightened and aware, it means it has changed from aspect into a facet, meaning that it's become sovereign and independent and also a creator in its own right, meaning that now my own facets, my own aspects are now my children, so to speak, and I, as an oversoul, I'm their parent. So it makes then sense to be a mother and a father, because I am a mother and a father to these parts of myself that I've created and now have their own life. And I know that perhaps it sounds like some kind of sci-fi, but it is kind of, that's another part of this journey that I'm really all of a sudden becoming aware of. And it also makes sense to, because for a while I was asking myself, let's say I didn't have children, and I'm glad I didn't, because I was so involved with this. And yet all of the things on earth are a reflection of the non-physical, you know, like all of the things that we've dealt with on earth are also a reflection of what is happening in the non-physical. So I'm thinking, wow, why is it for people having children or being a child or being a parent such a huge part? It's like, you know, 20, 30 lifetime job kind of. So how does that translate to a non-physical when you're not born, you don't have a physical body, why would those experiences be so huge in human experiences if they just die here on earth? And if everyone, once you become enlightened, once you become a master, it's your last lifetime, just when you can be the best parent, because you're all of a sudden this love and light and mature, then all of a sudden you finish. So how does that translate into a non-physical? And it translates because we are oversouls in training, basically, because we then are these soul beings that create our own children, so to speak, which are our own aspects and facets, and so that is another, like, it's this huge part of this new awareness as well. So it's there's so much, like, you know, when they were talking about, oh, you're going to be so multi-D, what does that mean? All of that. There are so many new, how can I say, these new issues and not questions, but it's like, oh, wow. So that's what that is, you know? So it's not just, you know, like my old human self thought, okay, so I'm going to be enlightened, and yeah, then I'm going to buy some new cabrio car or whatever, and I'm going to have a nice house, and, you know, that's going to be it, and I'm going to travel a bit, and that's my enlightenment, you know? But it's not at all like all
It's not.
No, you know what I mean? It's just all these so much becomes this, like, oh my God. And I find myself being this oversoul a little bit. And I don't know, have you read that book of Jane Roberts, Oversoul 7?
No.
You know, Jane Roberts did Seth, you know, she channeled Seth. So she did like a novel on Oversoul 7. And that is just so much like, it's like being an oversoul of your parts that have a life. And some of them you love, and some of them are so annoying when they call you. And I can relate that, like me when I was awakening, you know, how I was so annoying to Michael when I called him, and I was pissed off with him, and why this, you know. And now I'm having to do that to my own parts. And like there's, or it's kind of like that it was, all of this was there before, it's coming to now my awareness that all of that is also there, you know. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but fantastical.
Oh, good point of view. Yes, and another layer, definitely true. Yes.
It's interesting or not, but you know, I'm just saying also there are so many different areas or arenas that open up with all of this, that yeah.
I became aware that we are the creator. We don't have to sit on a park bench. It's fine, okay, but being a creator is not, it doesn't mean just to create something else or one or two things. As you mentioned this, it just opened it to all dimensions. But we have the responsibility to create. Not letting it come to us, just to create. And this is well, I think we can't imagine it right now, right away. What else is serving us or coming to us? We have to think about it until next time.
Well, I will send you the link to that interview. I'll send you the link to the video. I'll upload it tomorrow, not tonight, if you're okay with that, to the recording. And then I will send you in that email. So I'll send you the link to Oversoul 7 from Jane Roberts, which is, if you want to read. Yeah, it's such a cute, Jane Roberts was such a good writer, and she was like in 60s and 70s. To think that she was able to channel such quality timeless materials into that old energy, is like, oh my God. But she got very sick from it. She got very sick at that in those times. Anyway, so I'll do that, and then a link to that interview and a link to the recording, and then also you, Hans Christian, and Doris send you your email together. Did you want, Ida, did you want the email as well?
No, I don't need it.
All right, not a problem. So I'll send you that. And then I think we've come to the end. Do you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got loads.
A lot moving around. Oh gosh.
Lots of things to work through, isn't it? And but mainly it really is opening up to all of these possibilities and thinking of things in a different perspective, isn't it? Like very much different from a human, the old human way that we can look at everything.
We have to go on Angel's Peak and look from above down, and yeah, it's really changing the perspectives. Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you very much for all your wisdom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's always such a pleasure and joy to be here, and I will send you all the links tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.